Welcome the rare gems. The greatest power lies not in what you say, but in what you refuse to react to. Being a Sigma isn't about being loud or aggressive. It's about being smart, calculated, and unapologetically yourself. Sigmas don't waste their time with unnecessary drama or petty arguments. They've mastered the art of subtle domination. They know how to handle enemies without ever breaking a sweat, making every move count and every word matter. If you've ever wondered why you're always underestimated, but somehow end up ahead, it's because you don't play by the same rules as everyone else. You don't chase validation or waste your energy proving yourself to people who don't matter. That's the Sigma mindset. And trust me, it's powerful. This isn't just about winning or beating someone else. It's about living so authentically and wisely that your enemies can't keep up. It's about thriving while they're stuck trying to figure you out. The best revenge is always growth, success, and peace of mind. And Sigmas have that down to an art. In this video, we'll break down 10 genius ways you can outsmart, outlast, and outshine anyone trying to bring you down. So stay with me, because being a Sigma is your strength and it's time to embrace it fully. Number 1. Outthinking instead of outshouting. When a Sigma faces conflict, they don't waste time yelling or proving a point. Why? Because they know winning isn't about volume. It's about strategy. For Sigmas, every disagreement is like a chessboard, where every move counts and rash decisions only lead to defeat. While others get loud and emotional, Sigmas stay cool, analyzing the situation like a seasoned player studying their opponent's next 3 moves. Here's the thing. Arguing is exhausting, and most of the time, it's pointless. Sigmas understand this better than anyone. Instead of getting drawn into heated debates or petty squabbles, they focus on the bigger picture. They ask themselves, what's the goal here? What's the smartest way to handle this? And that's where their genius lies. They anticipate their enemy's moves, weaknesses, and motivations, then quietly adjust their strategy to stay 10 steps ahead. This approach doesn't just end the conflict, it leaves their enemies baffled. There's nothing more infuriating for someone trying to provoke you than realizing their efforts are falling flat. Sigmas make their opponents feel intellectually outclassed without ever lifting a finger or raising their voice. But don't mistake their silence for passivity. Sigmas aren't avoiding the fight, they're winning it before it even begins. By staying calm and thinking critically, they turn every confrontation into an opportunity to outsmart the competition. That kind of calculated brilliance doesn't just resolve problems, it puts their enemies to shame. So next time someone tries to drag you into an argument, ask yourself, do I want to win the battle, or do I want to win the war? Like a true Sigma, keep your voice steady, your mind sharp, and your strategy unbeatable. That's how you outthink instead of outshout. Number 2, weaponizing the truth. For Sigmas, the truth isn't just a moral principle, it's their sharpest weapon. While others resort to lies, manipulation, or emotional tactics to win battles, Sigmas rely on cold, hard facts. Why? Because the truth doesn't require justification or elaboration. It stands tall on its own, and when wielded wisely, it cuts deeper than any insult or deceit ever could. When faced with conflict, Sigmas don't rush to defend themselves with dramatics or half-truths. Instead, they calmly observe, gather evidence, and deliver their points with laser precision. They don't argue, they expose. This approach doesn't just win arguments, it dismantles their enemy's entire narrative, leaving them scrambling to cover up their contradictions or excuses. But it's not just about winning. By sticking to the truth, Sigmas refuse to lower themselves to the petty tactics of their opponents. Lies and manipulation might win short-term battles, but Sigmas play the long game. They know that integrity always outlasts deceit, and credibility is a weapon no one can steal from you. What makes this approach so effective is that it's impossible to fight against. When you present undeniable facts, your enemies are forced to confront their flaws in real time. And while they're busy making excuses, you've already moved on, leaving them stuck in the mess they created. The best part, Sigmas don't gloat. Their use of truth is calm, deliberate, and unshakable. It sends a clear message. I don't need to lie to win. I just need to let reality speak for itself. That quiet confidence doesn't just put enemies to shame. It leaves a lasting impression of strength and authenticity that no one can argue with. Number 3, owning their flaws before anyone else can. Sigmas don't run from their flaws, they own them, fully, unapologetically, and with zero shame. They understand a simple truth that most people miss. When you admit your imperfections before anyone else has the chance to point them out, you strip away their power to hurt you. It's not just bold, it's genius. Here's how it works. Enemies thrive on finding weaknesses to exploit. They dig, search, and wait for that perfect moment to expose a flaw and use it against you. But when a Sigma walks into the room and says, "Yeah, I know I'm not perfect, and here's why," it leaves their enemies speechless. What's left to attack when the target has already disarmed the weapon? This tactic doesn't just neutralize potential attacks, it also flips the script. Instead of being embarrassed or defensive, the Sigma stands tall in their honesty, which makes their enemies look desperate and petty for even trying. What could have been a powerful blow turns into an awkward whiff. More importantly, owning flaws shows confidence. Sigmas don't pretend to be flawless because they don't need to. They know their worth isn't defined by their imperfections, but by their ability to rise above them. This level of self-awareness and self-acceptance is intimidating to enemies who rely on insecurity to gain control. Ultimately, owning their flaws is another way Sigmas show that they don't play by the usual rules of conflict. They don't hide, they don't run, and they certainly don't give anyone the satisfaction of holding power over them. Their enemies are left with nothing to exploit and no way to win, proving once again that honesty and self-respect are their greatest shields. Number 4, transforming insults into motivation. When insults are thrown their way, Sigmas don't flinch, they strategize. They see insults not as wounds but as opportunities, turning negativity into the very fuel they need to push harder, go further, and achieve more. Instead of wasting energy being offended or engaging in pointless battles, they quietly use the criticism as motivation to level up. Here's the beauty of it. Nothing frustrates an enemy more than seeing their carefully crafted insult backfire. They expected anger or defensiveness, but instead, the Sigma turns their words into a stepping stone for success. Every insult becomes a silent challenge. "Oh, you think I can't do it? Watch me." And that's exactly what Sigmas do. They let their actions do the talking. Sigmas understand that the best revenge isn't responding to the insult, it's thriving in spite of it. When enemies see their words transform into the very reason for the Sigma's success, it's a humiliation they can't escape. Every accomplishment, every milestone, every victory becomes a reminder that their attempts to tear the Sigma down only made them stronger. What makes this approach so powerful is that it's quiet but undeniable. Sigmas don't need to announce, "I'll prove you wrong." They just do it, leaving their enemies to stew in their own bitterness. The transformation is undeniable. The same words meant to harm them become the Sigma's story of resilience and growth. Ultimately, Sigmas don't just survive insults, they thrive because of them. They show that no matter what's thrown their way, they have the power to turn it into something greater. And nothing puts an enemy to shame faster than realizing their attempts to destroy you only made you unstoppable. At number 5, outgrowing the conflict. Sigmas have a simple yet profound philosophy. Why wrestle in the mud when you can climb the mountain? Instead of wasting time or energy on petty grudges, they choose to outgrow the conflict entirely. For them, revenge isn't about fighting back. It's about leaving the fight behind and focusing on a life so extraordinary that the conflict becomes meaningless. Here's how they do it. While their enemies obsess over winning, Sigmas channel their energy into self-improvement and long-term goals. They understand that the best way to shame an enemy is to render their efforts insignificant. When you're thriving on a completely different level, the person trying to drag you down looks small and irrelevant. Sigmas don't just walk away from conflict, they rise above it. Their success becomes their response, and their growth becomes their ultimate revenge. Imagine someone holding a grudge while you're too busy achieving things they can't even fathom. That's how Sigmas operate. They turn the conflict into a stepping stone for something greater, proving that the only fight worth having is the one with yourself. What's brilliant about this approach is its finality. While their enemies remain trapped in the same toxic cycle, Sigmas are already miles ahead, building a life that no amount of pettiness can touch. It's not about ignoring the conflict, it's about evolving beyond it. And the irony? The more Sigmas outgrow the conflict, the more their enemies feel stuck and powerless. Watching someone succeed while you're fixated on a grudge is its own kind of defeat, and Sigmas make sure to let their actions speak louder than any argument ever could. Outgrowing the conflict isn't just a strategy, it's the ultimate way to win. Number 6, never stooping to their enemy's level. Sigmas have mastered the art of restraint. They don't stoop to their enemy's level, no matter how tempting it might be. Instead of sinking into petty arguments or low blows, they stand firm in their integrity, making their enemies look like the ones trapped in immaturity. Their silence is their strength, and it's the most powerful statement they can make. When faced with insults, accusations, or manipulative games, Sigmas don't play along. They know that engaging in the same childish drama only drags them down and gives power to the very people trying to undermine them. So, instead of retaliating, they remain calm, composed, and completely unaffected. This refusal to engage makes their enemies look small, desperate, and entirely out of their depth. The genius of this tactic is in its simplicity. When someone is attempting to provoke a reaction and they get none, it's their own tactics that begin to feel hollow. The more a Sigma refuses to stoop to petty games, the more their enemies flounder, trying to get a rise out of someone who's too focused on their own success to care. In this way, Sigmas don't just avoid sinking to their enemy's level, they elevate the situation by remaining above it. They force their enemies to reveal their true colors. While others are caught in the drama, Sigmas quietly rise above, proving that maturity, self-control, and inner strength will always outshine childish antics. Number 7. Forcing enemies to compete against themselves. Sigmas have a remarkable way of staying out of unnecessary competition, and in doing so, they force their enemies to face the harshest competition of all, themselves. While others scramble to prove themselves against one another, Sigmas quietly remove themselves from the fray, making it clear that they are not interested in the petty games or drama. This clever withdrawal isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about making their enemies realize they've created an internal race they can't possibly win. When Sigmas refuse to compete, they subtly shift the narrative. Instead of playing by the rules others have set, they define their own path and make it clear they're focused on something far greater than the shallow, competitive struggles around them. Their enemies, who are fixated on comparing themselves to the Sigma, end up turning all their energy inward. They're left battling their own expectations, insecurities, and self-imposed pressure, unable to break free of the mental race they've put themselves in. What's brilliant about this is that the Sigma doesn't need to do anything overt. They simply refuse to engage. By stepping out of the game, they allow their enemies to sink deeper into a battle of their own making. The more the enemy fights to outdo the Sigma, the more they lose sight of their own authenticity and purpose. They're so focused on outdoing a ghost that they never realize they've been racing against a reflection of their own limitations all along. In the end, the Sigma doesn't need to beat their enemies. They let their enemies lose to themselves. The real power here is in not participating, letting others chase after an impossible standard while the Sigma moves forward, quietly, unbothered, and free. At number 8, sabotaging gossip with unshakable confidence. When enemies start spreading rumors or lies, the Sigma's response is nothing short of brilliant. They don't scramble to defend themselves or chase after the truth. Instead, they stand firm in their unshakable confidence, letting their authenticity speak louder than any rumor could. The key here is that the Sigma knows that lies only have power when they are met with doubt or fear, so they don't give those lies the energy they need to grow. While others might react emotionally to false accusations, the Sigma remains calm, composed, and resolutely confident in who they are. This self-assurance becomes an almost magnetic force, one that makes the lies dissolve in the face of their undeniable truth. The more their enemies push their narrative, the more the Sigma's authenticity shines through. The rumors simply have no ground to stand on. It's not because the Sigma spends time addressing or countering the gossip. It's because they don't need to. Their reputation, built on integrity and strength, is the best defense they could ever have. In contrast, the enemies who spread these lies are left looking petty and desperate. As the Sigma continues on their path, unwavering and unaffected, their enemies scramble to maintain their facade. The Sigma doesn't need to fight back because their confidence makes the lies irrelevant. The power of their reputation becomes undeniable, and in the end, the gossipers only expose their own desperation. Number 9. Making their enemy irrelevant. The ultimate move in the Sigma playbook. Making their enemy irrelevant. Sigmas understand that the more you feed into drama, the more you empower it. So they do the opposite. Instead of retaliating or getting involved in pointless conflict, they simply refuse to acknowledge the enemy's existence. By choosing not to engage, Sigmas immediately strip the power away from anyone trying to provoke them. The enemy, in their desperate attempt to create tension, ends up being completely ignored. And that's when the real power shift happens. What frustrates an adversary the most isn't a direct confrontation. It's the cold realization that they don't matter. Sigmas refuse to give their energy to anyone or anything that doesn't align with their values or goals. By withdrawing completely, they make it clear that the enemy isn't even worth their time or attention. And that, in itself, is a far more devastating blow than any argument or retaliation could ever be. This move doesn't require noise, drama, or a fight. The Sigma's silence is the most powerful statement they can make. While others are caught up in petty battles, Sigmas rise above, focused only on what truly matters to them. Their refusal to engage doesn't make them weak. It makes them untouchable. And nothing infuriates an enemy more than realizing their existence is insignificant in the Sigma's world. At number 10, using time as their weapon. Sigmas have a profound understanding of time as both a weapon and a tool for clarity. While their enemies rush to make quick moves or lash out in frustration, Sigmas remain calm and patient, knowing that time is the ultimate truth-teller. They don't need to react in the moment because they understand that, eventually, time will expose the real story. The brilliance of this tactic lies in the patience Sigmas exhibit. Instead of fighting every battle as it comes, they let their enemies waste energy with petty attacks, believing that these actions will eventually backfire. While their adversaries grow desperate and frantic, Sigmas remain composed, letting the natural progression of time work in their favor. In the end, time reveals who was truly in the wrong, and the Sigma doesn't need to say a word. What makes this approach so powerful is that it turns the tables. While their enemies are caught up in the immediate drama, trying to win in the short term, the Sigma sees the bigger picture. They know that patience is not passivity. It's a strategy. By withholding judgment and letting the story unfold, they allow the truth to be revealed in a way that makes their enemies look foolish for acting so hastily. It's like watching a storm pass. The Sigma stands firm, letting the wind blow itself out while everyone else around them scrambles to adjust. In the end, it's not the immediate chaos that matters, but the fact that, over time, the truth will always surface. And when it does, the Sigma's calm and steady approach will shine, proving that patience is not just a virtue, it's a weapon that outlasts any attack. Number 11. Building allies where their enemies burn bridges. Sigmas have an uncanny ability to build strong, lasting relationships, even in the most challenging environments. They don't need to play politics or manipulate people to gather allies. Their authenticity and reliability naturally draw others in. It's not about grand gestures or superficial charm. It's about being true to themselves and offering something real that others can rely on. Meanwhile, their enemies, driven by negativity and ego, burn bridges with their toxic behavior, making their own social circles smaller and smaller. The beauty of this dynamic is that while Sigmas remain calm and true to their principles, they attract people who recognize those same qualities in them. They don't need to force connections or network aggressively. Their authenticity and quiet confidence are magnetic, and they often find themselves surrounded by a circle of genuine allies who respect their independence and strength. On the flip side, the enemies of Sigmas often destroy their own relationships. Obsessed with control, bitterness, or petty drama, they push people away with negativity, leaving behind a trail of broken connections. As they burn bridges, their social capital shrinks. Meanwhile, Sigmas are quietly strengthening theirs, earning respect and trust from those who value character over games. This quiet social victory is one of the Sigma's sharpest weapons. While enemies are consumed by their own drama, Sigmas remain steady, building connections that are based on mutual respect and authenticity. In the end, the Sigma's success is not just measured by what they accomplish, but by the solid, reliable network of allies they cultivate along the way, something their enemies simply can't destroy. I've experienced this point, building allies where their enemies burn bridges, countless times, and most of the time, it wasn't intentional. It just happened, probably when people realized the truth. During my university days, it happened frequently. In conclusion, in the end, the genius of the Sigma isn't in loud confrontations or petty victories. It's in their quiet, calculated mastery over themselves and the situations around them. The power of a Sigma female lies in her ability to stand firm in her authenticity, refuse to engage in unnecessary drama, and let her actions, rather than words, do the talking. She knows that real strength isn't about overpowering others, but about maintaining an unshakable confidence that leaves enemies scrambling for validation that they'll never get. As a Sigma female, you have a rare ability to rise above the noise. You don't need to prove anything to anyone because you know that your worth is defined by your own standards, not by the opinions of others. While the world around you may be caught up in games of control and manipulation, you stand apart, moving with purpose and focus. You don't need to play by anyone's rules because you're writing your own story. So the next time someone tries to challenge you, remember this: your ability to stay calm, stay true to yourself, and let your own strength shine will always put your enemies to shame. They might try to provoke you, tear you down, or drag you into their world of negativity, but your quiet confidence, your refusal to play the game, will always make them look small. Keep your focus on your own path, and watch as your enemies fade into irrelevance. You are a Sigma female, unstoppable, unbothered, and undeniably powerful. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video. Bye for now, and God bless.